Pathmonk is the AI for website conversions. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in the buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50% by adding Pathmonk to your website in seconds, letting the AI do all the work and increase conversions while you keep doing marketing as usual. Check us out on pathmonk.com. All right, everybody, welcome to today's episode of Pathmonk Presents. Today, we are joined by Suzanne Noble. She's the Regional Director of Sales and Marketing at FirmTech UK. Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, glad to have you, Suzanne. I know it's gonna get maybe a little bit spicy today because we're gonna talk about FirmTech. But in your own words, can you tell us a little bit about your company? What's the heart of what your company does, and what makes it stand out in the market?
Sure. Well, FirmTech, which was co-founded by Dr. Elliot Justin in the state of Montana, is a company that really supports men's sexual health. Elliot started to look into something that most people don't talk about, which is what happens to men while they sleep, and how does that impact on their vascular health. And what he came to understand was that during the night, while men are asleep, they have multiple erections, and the number of erections that they have determines their vascular health. It can predict, for instance, if you have none or very few, that the likelihood of you having a serious chronic illness, like, for instance, cardiovascular disease, maybe prostate issues, diabetes, are vastly increased through knowing how many erections you have at night. So he developed a product that took a few years to develop called the TechRing. What it is it's a constriction ring, and it measures the duration and the firmness of a man's erection while he's asleep, while he's having sex, while he's masturbating. And in discovering the number of erections that a man has, he can then determine his overall physical health. And we are really on a mission to support men to prevent long-term health conditions. So this is the way that we're doing it. It's quite innovative, as you can appreciate. And yeah, it's a relatively new device. It's only been around for about 3 years. So we are just really in that early stage of being a startup where we're still exploring all the opportunities for this particular diagnostic device and other products that are also related to sexual health, men's sexual health, and soon women's sexual health as well.
Understood. So I don't know if you can see this, right? This is a smart ring.
Aura.
That's ultra human, right?
Right.
So similar. And I wear this all the time, right? As I sleep and as I run, whatever I'm doing, I'm wearing it.
Yeah.
This is my curiosity kicking in, right? So is that how the ring works for you guys? Do you need to wear it at all times, or how does it work?
No. So basically, most people are concerned about what happens when they sleep more than at any other time, because, at any other time it's fairly visible, right? But whilst a man's asleep, he can't really see. So we suggest that a man wears it roughly 4 times to get a good sense of the reading. And generally they wear it while they're asleep. So you put it on at bedtime, you can put it on when you're not hard, and as you sleep, then it starts taking readings. It's connected via Bluetooth to an app, and that app is what's recording what's happening. And alongside that, you can add other bits of data that are very useful. For instance, how many units of alcohol you drink, whether you're on any particular medication, because, for instance, antidepressants can have a significant impact on erectile function, all sorts of things that then determine what's going on. And we're seeing more and more doctors, especially who don't really have this kind of data available to them. Cardiologists, we know, you can hook yourself up and they can read your heart and put you on a treadmill and, figure out all sorts of things that are going on with your heart.
Mhm.
But when it goes into your genitals, there's very little way to record that particular data set. So urologists and people like that are super excited to now have a device that provides them with some really useful data.
Okay, very interesting. Thanks for expanding, by the way. Maybe let's get back to for a second, to the more technical side of things in terms of marketing and sales and growth a little bit.
Sure.
Suzanne, if you can touch on, uh, you know, just curious, how do most people discover you? And if maybe you can expand on a little bit on the marketing channels that are working for your region, let's say, and that they've become the go-to for bringing in new customers for you guys.
Sure. Well, one of the big challenges that pretty much anyone in sex tech has is where they're able to advertise. And female sexual health, male sexual health, it's all pretty challenging because Meta in particular doesn't accept many of these type of products. So we have to look at alternative marketing channels. And Elliot, for instance, who's very charismatic, has been appearing as a guest on podcasts now for years. He works with a podcast agency. They get him guest spots on podcasts with both healthcare professionals, people concerned with men's health. As you can appreciate, biohackers love this kind of stuff because they just want all their data, like you with your ring, right? Like most people that are into that, Garmin watches, etc., they want the
Yeah,
whole thing. You're probably familiar with a guy called Brian Johnson, who's
of
the
course.
longevity expert, right? He measures all this kind of stuff, right?
Hmm.
And so biohackers are really interested, longevity experts, so really, podcasting has become one of our primary marketing channels. The way I got involved in the company is I have a very large audience on TikTok and Facebook, and I host a weekly podcast myself called Sex Advice for Seniors. And Elliot was on my podcast, and that's how we built up the relationship that we have.
Mm.
And I know that part of the benefit of working with a company that I really love is that I'm able to just sell for him just being me. So I get lots of my followers, for example, who buy FirmTech products because I've recommended them and I think they're great. So working with influencers like myself, other people with large YouTube audiences, for example, has been pretty much the key way that we've been able to reach people other than on the healthcare side where we've got now quite a sophisticated lead generation machine going of outreach on LinkedIn lists that we've acquired looking just web scraping all that sort of stuff. So
Mm.
that's kind of one of the newer ways that we're doing things. And then we've got lots of blogs on the website that are informative blogs and pushing out regular newsletters to people that we pick up via pop-ups on our website.
Okay, interesting. So it was a perfect match for you guys when you met, like with Elliot, right? Because obviously with you doing what you do, and it fits, right? No pun
Yeah,
intended. So
completely. Yeah. Yeah.
perfect. So obviously you have social selling on your side, and I'm sure that's working great. But obviously, with us personally, we talk about websites a lot because Pathmark being a website tool. And I'm curious, how much of a role does your website play in pulling in new customers? And yeah, do you think there's anything that works particularly well, or anything that maybe you got your eye on improving?
Yeah, I think the big challenge that as a business is that most of the sales that we get are to consumers. And I know that there's a very big market that is out there of healthcare professionals who would buy and are interested in buying multiple units, right? So they're looking at doing resale, they're looking at how they can use it within their own practice to be able to acquire the data, giving it out to patients, upselling other services, for example, that might be further visits once they've been able to generate some data on this. So come back in, let's see how your testosterone replacement therapy is going.
Mm,
This is one area that can help. I think the challenge is always, where do you focus your attention? Because a website that is very consumer facing is not necessarily going to be that appealing to a healthcare professional who thinks, is this a serious diagnostic device? Is this something that is going to be, that's been tried and tested? That's, we're a medical class 2 device. We've got, we're going through FDA approval, all of that sort of stuff. But being able to balance the messaging for one group of people who are very
mm,
consumer orientated and another group of people who are healthcare is hard. And so we've made the decision to focus on the consumer side because kind of that's where the company started. That was, we knew how to reach those people. Now we're doing a lot of outreach to the doctors. They go on the website, they're like, oh, it looks, is it a sex toy? What is this a serious product? People with a science background sometimes want to see something that looks a little bit different. So I would say, and that's just me speaking from what I've noticed sometimes with the conversations that I've had with doctors, is that sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect for them with this consumer facing website versus maybe what they want to see, which is a little bit more bland, maybe bit more information. So we're starting to introduce those science papers, those abstracts, the side that we know is what they're interested in, which is, show me the proof, show me the data, show me that this has got some, professional research that's been done. So yeah.
right. That's a valid point, I think. I don't know if, if the solution is having a separate website or, just a different version of the existing one, but it's definitely something that, now that you mention it, for health professionals, you go on a website and it's so, obviously we know how marketing can make a website sexy and try to sell as much as possible, but it might be detrimental for that side of your audience, right? For the wholesale, let's say, or the most medical kind of minded audience,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
because
makes
they
makes
want,
sense.
and maybe they want to see something that looks kind of bland, and kind
Mm,
of
more
very
sterile, like, yeah,
more sterile, that gives them that confidence that this is a medical device.
yeah.
Uh,
It's
but
also what they expect,
and
right?
that's what, yeah, and that's
Typically,
like,
yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
I think that's, for me, that's always been the biggest challenge, is that the consumer market is fairly straightforward. We've got a nice, cool looking Shopify site, looks great. It looks great and does what it needs to do. But the other side of it is, how can we get more health professionals on board? Because ultimately, I feel there's a massive opportunity there.
Okay. Now, Suzanne, we're about to wrap up, and I know you have a podcast yourself coming up,
Yeah.
right? So, um, would you mind if we jumped into our rapid fire segment? And it's basically, just a few quick and engaging questions that we ask our guests, just to keep it light. And the only unspoken rule is that for a concise question is, we need a concise answer. Is
That's fine. I
that
can do
okay?
that.
All right, let's do that. So, do you prefer watching, reading, or listening?
Watching.
Watching. Okay. What's the latest piece of content you watched? It could be social media, it could be a film, it could be a
Oh,
video.
I
Go
blasted
ahead.
6 seasons of Handmaid's Tale in like a month.
Okay, fair enough. Were there any gems or ideas that you picked up from it at all? It
Gems.
doesn't have to.
Well, I mean, it's a dystopian,
Yeah,
kind of quite depressing show that reflects a lot of what's going on in America at the moment. So it does make you consider what may be lying ahead for some
makes you think.
Americans. Yeah, it makes you think. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Now, on a different note, if you had a magic wand and you could fix one frustrating thing in your marketing life with tech, what would it be?
God, the number of emails I receive and just dealing with them.
Okay, fair enough. Think we can all relate. Now, this one may be related to it, maybe not, but what's one repetitive task that you love to put on autopilot forever?
Tagging all my content.
Okay. So that's for social media and
Just yeah, because I'm
okay.
on so many social media channels and I'm really bad at that.
No, that's understandable. Now, if you could go back and give your past self a quick pep talk at the start of your marketing journey, what advice would you drop?
What advice? Make sure that you know the people that you're solving the problem for and where to find them.
Okay, that's a good one to close with. 100%. It's definitely relevant for our marketing feed. So, Suzanne, I want to thank you again for being on the show with us today. And also want to give you the last word. So if someone forgets everything about the interview today, what's the one thing that they should remember about the work you guys are doing?
That a way to a man's heart is through his penis.
All right. Amazing. That's okay. That's a perfect closer right there. Suzanne, I want to thank you again. If someone is interested, to find a man's heart for your company, let's say, where should they go?
They should go to myfirmtech.com.
Amazing. All right. Thanks again, Suzanne. I'll see you again
Thank
soon.
you. Bye.